101, inspiring entrepreneurs to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest, the Go Getters Coach, transform leadership pattern and drive joyful, sustainable success, and of course, balance without burnout. None other than Amaze Ronni Landeck.
Hello. Thank
Welcome,
you for having
welcome.
me. Thank you, Daniel. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Ms. Ronnie on Entrepreneurship 101. Can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. I am a coach. I help women launch businesses, become entrepreneurial, create strategic side ventures, and teach the building blocks that help them to get there in a way that is sustainable, protects your well being, but really expresses your purpose and lets you leave an impact that feels really meaningful for yourself, but also for those who you care about. So, really happy to share with you today. Thank you, Daniel.
No worries at all. And thank you so much, Ms. Ronnie, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom too. And today, let's talk about transform leadership patterns and drive joyful, sustainable success. So, tell us, most leaders are unaware of their own patterns. What are the most common default settings you see high achievers running on actually work against them?
Ooh, some of the patterns, this is great. The patterns that high achievers tend to maintain that eventually could put you on the path to burnout and often do would be sort of like um, pushing and climbing towards a goal that you set a long time ago and not really stopping to assess, is this really um, important to me still as far as who I am today and the legacy I want to leave behind? So continuing to go after a goal that they haven't paused to reflect on, and maybe redefine and uh, adjust at key points in career, and even in building a business if you're already in that phase. So I think pausing to assess is a key antidote to the pattern of just working and going, why, how did I get here and why am I not happy, right? Um, I'd say another pattern is definitely feeling like they have to either control everything themselves or take 100% um, on and feel like they have to do this solo. We succeed because the contrast is we succeed in community. We become better versions of ourselves by lifting others in the process. So it's not a solo journey. And I feel like that is a pattern. Once my clients realize that they gain so much more by creating synergy and by hiring really wisely and strategically, then the game can change and the old patterns are no longer relevant.
Yes, and very well said, Ms. Ronnie. You mentioned transforming patterns. How does leader even begin to recognize they are stuck in a loop, especially when the loop has made them successful so far?
Yeah, that loop, you're getting feedback, right? Basically, it's your revenue, it's your growth of opportunity. The other feedback that we sometimes haven't learned to pay attention to is, do I actually enjoy, do I have peace on the inner landscape? What's the feedback my actual emotional and physical world are telling me? So, getting still, doing practices that really actually feed the spiritual part of us. And I'm not talking about necessarily religion, but I'm talking about the spiritual, the inner part that really helps us know when we are um, in our path, right? Going the direction that we're um, sort of put here to do. When you know that, that's when the feedback there really does help you become. limitless in what you will end up achieving, because then the work you do doesn't come from force. It doesn't come from um, this effort that can lead to illness, unhappiness, all the things that we are so surrounded by and also experiencing. So I think it's paying attention to the feedback that's coming in, the data outside, but even equally giving value to the feedback that's happening on in your inner world.
Inner world, indeed. Is there a specific pattern you notice that masquerades as strong leadership, like micromanaging or relentless hustle, but is actually a coping mechanism in disguise?
So if someone, you said, if someone has this pattern of, let's say, relentless hustle,
Yes, please.
what is a coping mechanism?
Hmm.
Ah, okay. Um, in this case, it is allowing yourself to recognize that um, there is no such thing as I'm worthy of enjoying my success when. So we create maybe these sort of like false contracts with ourselves, right? Like I'll stop and enjoy my fruit of my labor when and then fill in the blank. So acknowledging maybe some of those inner false contracts that we've made that aren't helping us now, and say, I'm choosing to enjoy um, the fruits of my work and the abundance that I'm creating right now. And then defining how that is for you and doing it with very great, clear intention. So, clarity of why you are spending your time and um, where you're spending it, clarity about why you're spending your resources where you're spending them. And I mean beyond the business structure and your resources there, but I mean outside of that, because we're a whole being, We have the career attainment, we have the personal development, and then, taking also into account relationships and how healthy and vibrant are we actually feeling, because having a really great business but crashing your health in the meantime, is that really success? At a core level, we all can agree that that's not success. So, um, coping would be to allow yourself to assess what contracts you've created and rewrite those for yourself, and 100% work with a coach. Like, this is not meant to be done on your own. I think find someone who really clicks with your way of approaching your life and your business, and also helps you to be challenged uh, to think bigger in these ways that we're talking about.
Bigger and better for sure. When a leader is running on autopilot, what tends to suffer first? The results, the team's morale, or their own health?
I think that's variable as far as what's going to suffer first. Um, Running on autopilot, the I think the effects can sort of sometimes like drift or slowly slide into um, you know unhealthy areas for the team. It can be a slow drift, right? Like, slowly, maybe you have people who were contributing and engaged in the work, and then suddenly, instead of them being first with an idea, maybe they're halfway even paying attention when there's a meeting. So those kinds of slow slides in the wrong direction. Let's see. Regarding health, I feel like, yes, our bodies are really resilient, and it's such a miracle that we're able to do everything we do in these vehicles. However, sometimes they endure so long that the results will pile up later. Like, that's not uncommon. I would say, people push it for decades sometimes before the problems catch up. So, it really is so many variables. But the key that I teach is stop and check in weekly. Like, what's important that I learned this week, right? What's important from what I learned that went well this week, and what didn't go well, and how am I going to adapt my approach as a leader, as an owner, as a founder, as a parent for next week. And then also check in monthly. We have check ins with our employees or we have one on ones, but how important is it to stop and see where you are? And there are great systems in place that you can create to put in place that make that really easy and just really productive and bring the happiness to the work.
Miss Ronnie, you often see patterns rooted in fear of failure, fear of irrelevance, fear of letting go. Where do you think these fears originate most entrepreneurs?
Yeah, for entrepreneurs, the specific group who really is drawn to this challenge of creating something that was not right before them, right? This creative spirit and this um, determination that it requires. Um, I think the common drive is to have freedom, right? Freedom to say where I want to work, how much I want to work, with whom I choose to work. So that desire for freedom to me is born out of the fear of not having freedom, right? So when you don't have freedom, and you're afraid of losing that, it might be, hey, I will be vulnerable if I put all my eggs in this one basket. And many people that I'm um, helping have found they did. They were loyal to their corporate role, loyal to their company. However, where does that loyalty land some of them, right? It can land you in a layoff when it's restructure time, even if you were an amazing performer. So there is where the fear of giving and not receiving reciprocally, right? So when you are an entrepreneur, it's on you. Either I choose the right path and get the result that I hope for, or I've chosen a path and don't get the result I hoped for. But either way, I had the autonomy and the agency and the freedom to live that way. So I think that's the unique characteristic I've seen about entrepreneurs, and I can speak from that for myself. That comes from a place that I've also lived. Did I answer your question, Daniel?
Definitely, very well said. Very well said, Miss Ronnie. We often inherit leadership styles from our first bosses or our family systems. How much of our dysfunctional leadership is just unconsciously repeating what we experience?
Oh, I think a huge part could be copying what was modeled, and that can be good. But there also are always going to be blind spots in those ways of leading. So it is definitely 100% crucial if you're going to be a leader who gets done what you intend. If you have this big vision and you really want to be that visionary leader who is making it happen for themselves and others, the key is to build the very best growth mindset and continue to build that growth mindset. And I'm probably not sharing that with people who don't already know that. Like your listeners, I'm sure understand the value of a growth mindset. But again, how often are we assessing? Am I assuming that I'm um, aware and conscious in my leadership approach? So, the growth mindset approach would say, I know I have strengths that I'm building on, relying on, adapting with. However, what is it that I still have yet to learn? Or who have I not yet been around that I want to connect with to take things to the next level? So, always looking for um, strength building and being aware of where you have a blind spot or a innate weakness, because nobody is all strength. We all have things that are lower on our list of capabilities, and that is okay. It's being aware of them and not letting those be the things that drag you down.
Very well said, Miss Ronnie. When you work with leaders, one one on one, what is the question you ask to get the root of why they lead the way they do?
Keeping it pretty open is often the most powerful. And if it's someone that I'm first getting to know, um, if it, let's say it were you, Daniel, and we were starting, and I was getting my head around where your challenges might be, um, I would start with, all right, who is Daniel, and what do I need to know about you? Keeping it open and deeply listening, and listening for what is not sometimes being said, like reading between some of the nuance of what my clients are sharing helps me to understand what they value really deeply. Like, what are your personal core values? What maybe has been a sticking point that is causing you some pain right now? That's going to come to the surface pretty quickly, right? We're very easy to identify what's not working for us right now. Um, I listen for, um, does this person tend to make decisions based first on the emotion, like what's happening on the heart? Are they led by feeling first? Are they super logic analytical first? Or are they really like an intuitive person where they say, hey, my gut told me, go to this conference, and my gut told me to sell that part of the business. I listen for how they operate when they're at their best, and also listen for how they're operating when things didn't pan out. So um, in that way, I get to learn how to meet them not only where they are, but help them to see how they can operate best. Because ultimately, if you were my client, you're the one who knows the key, the unlock within you. The answer is in you. I get to be the catalyst for bringing that to your awareness, and then we create a plan of action.
A plan of action for sure. So, Ms. Ronnie, let's talk about the actual transformation. When a leader decides to change the pattern, what does that process look like on Tuesday morning?
Mm. When they make a decision to change a process, um, it begins first with getting clear as the leader themselves, because they want to be able to communicate it in a way that is not confusing for those who it affects, right? Get clear on your own, and then deliver the information to whoever you might be leading, or that business partner that it's going to interact and create change with, in a way that takes into account their what's in it for them and their reaction to it, right? So I would say communicating it clearly and with a lot of intention. um, Once they are changing that thing. It might be a cadence of how they're doing things in their company. It might be, it could be any number of things that they're going to change that pattern on. And then it's also being open to the feedback that you get once you create that plan and start changing that thing in your company. Open to the feedback, listen to your people, um, stay close to your customers who it's affecting, and constantly learn and iterate, so staying a humble learner and also staying a resilient learner, realizing um, there isn't such a thing as failure. It's in fact um, a chance to have a lesson when things aren't going as expected.
Lesson, definitely. So, Ms. Ronnie, well done. Is there a specific practice or a daily discipline that you found most effective for rewiring leadership habits?
Sure. I would say how you start your day is the most important um, the most important component for really um, achieving, right? And achieving in a way that isn't based on force and hustle. It's more about starting your day with habits that nourish inner self, habits that create a healthy physical body. It can be meditating, it can be getting on your spin bike and getting the heart pumping in the morning. It can be cold plunge, it can be so many things, but um, giving your morning the priority, energy, and attention it needs, and building that into who you are. So, the other part of it, beyond the physical, is also planning for that day. Too many people jump in and they're in reaction mode once the day starts, and then you're living out other people's agendas at that point. So, start with your own planning, block your time, set your non negotiable things that you need to accomplish, check in with yourself and say, okay, am I feeling friction about something? Am I feeling low energy today? And get the self awareness um, to be a key thing, because then you can navigate properly and make wise decisions as a leader. If you're low energy, do you have to keep all the 7 appointments that are on there that afternoon, or is there a way to rework some things um, and change some parts of your schedule? Or if you're feeling so creative and yet your day is packed with things that are like, oh my gosh, whenever I have that task, my creativity, drops down. Be very intentional and very strategic about how you're using your time. And it starts by how you plan your morning and block your day and your week.
Well, very well said, Miss Ronnie. So, how do you help leaders redefine success beyond the spreadsheet? What metrics do you use to measure the health of leaders' life?
Yeah, there are a few ways we can look at this. I have this really cool tool that I love to introduce with clients. It's called Energy Leadership Index. And there's an assessment that we do right at the beginning when I first start working with someone. And it gives you metrics on where are you with how you show up in times of stress, what's your kind of default when something goes sideways. And it gives you metrics on how are you on the average day when things are going as planned. Are you someone who operates with a compassionate stance towards others and yourself? Are you someone who operates with this visionary mind and really sees where things are connected and potential for you know everybody winning in this scenario? So some of those things people get to really connect to and learn language to strengthen and build on the things that are good. But more importantly is what are our habits when things don't go well, and how do we start to bounce back out of that? Because it's totally human to feel anger or discouragement or hopeless for a period of time when something challenging happens. That is a reality. We don't push against it, but what we do work on is how do you minimize the impact of that reaction? How do you use that um, to become a stepping stone back towards where you want to be? So, the cool thing about this energy leadership index approach is that you can start and see your objective measures on day one, and then we revisit it. You can look back, and we have a post measure when we retake it and look at the results, and you can see growth right on paper there. That's one tool that's really been so dynamic and so empowering for clients. So that one I really love.
Okay, Miss Ronnie, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season too, comedy 101 in its fourth season, and of course my food 101 in sixth season too, geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, and of course, my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Coaching 101, and of course, Motivation 101. and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Ronnie, how do you relate to your new book to our topic for today?
Well, I released this ebook called Boundaries and Balance because I know that this is a foundational building block to being a successful entrepreneur. So many people have competing priorities, right? You have your family, maybe, or you have your, these responsibilities that sometimes are hard to reconcile with where you want to go in your career and in your business ownership. So, creating boundaries that are useful, healthy, and also appropriately firm when they need to be firm boundaries, appropriately flexible when they need to be flexible. It is a skill that can be taught and it can change the entire game for entrepreneurs. So that's what I love about it.
Yes, and thank you so much for being part on Entrepreneurship 101. Miss Ronnie, and can you please invite the listeners to support your ebook, your advocacy, your business, or whatever project that you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
Yes, sure. Please meet me on RonnieLandeck.com. It's RonnieLandeck.com. And I have a community that is free. I would love people to join. It's called Networking Naturally. And I would love to have people obviously build rapport with one another there and create opportunities and support each other through this community. So you're invited, everyone.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Ronni Landeck. You can support her for sure. More and more empowering books like this to rise. More and more empowering advocacy like this to be implemented. So, Miss Ronnie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you, Daniel.
Likewise, Miss Ronnie. What can people see you soon?